So we all know that sleep is important. Okay, everyone knows this. When we sleep better, whatever that means, we perform better. We're quicker. We're stronger. We have better reflexes. We have better stamina and endurance. But you probably don't understand why. Like, you don't know what's going on behind the scenes of sleep. And when you do understand the power that it holds, you take it more seriously. So that's what we're going to be going over today. So introductions first. I'm Adam from Max Mentality. I teach athletes and performers how to increase their performance through mental optimization. And this episode will be going over the power of sleep. So although it's become more recognized in the sports scene, sleep is arguably one of the most underrated, if not the most underrated tool for optimizing your performance. Not just physical performance, but mental as well. And a lot of people don't really take it too seriously. You might not take it too seriously. You might just be interested in this video. That's why you clicked on it. But even Kobe Bryant didn't think it was important until he had this kind of revelation that we'll go over. And in this episode, this video will just be going over the effects of sleep, some common myths, how elite athletes use sleep. This is important to study, by the way, and how we can optimize sleep to our own advantage. So let's just start with why it's important. So sleep is really the foundation of our performance. Without proper sleep, we get a decrease in our decision-making abilities, our motor functions, our learning and our cognition, endurance, stamina, even our immune strength. And we also get an increased risk of gaining weight more easily. Obviously, these are quite important if we want to perform really, really well and on top of our game. So sleep holds a strong relationship with our circadian rhythm. So if you don't know what that means, it's basically like our body's internal clock, our timer for, when things happen. We'll go over this later. And sleep also does the heavy lifting of our recovery. So an important thing to understand is that sleep is a controllable factor and it can change our performance drastically. And a good way to recognize sleep is as an advanced training regimen rather than a state of inactivity. So, we usually think that, when we sleep, nothing's happening, right? It's like a period of wasted time that we could be doing something better, right? But really, a lot of things are happening and a lot of important things are happening while we're sleeping. So that's why we have to take it quite seriously. So now, that's one of the myths, really. And we'll go over some other myths right now. So one of them is it doesn't matter how you sleep as long as you sleep enough hours. So studies have shown that when you sleep matters, therefore it is ideal to get as much of your sleep during the night. Sleeping at night helps us synchronize our circadian rhythm, which is our body's internal clock, with the environment. So basically humans have evolved to sleep in the night, right? Of course, there's people who sleep in the daytime because of like night shifts and that, but naturally our body's internal timer works at night. So we sleep better at night. So how long you sleep is most important. So, the length of sleep is important, but what is more important is our quality of sleep. And this means no disruptions. So more sleep is always better. And although a significant amount of sleep is required for optimal performance, too much sleep can actually be a symptom of underlying health problems, and it can actually lead to increased risks of death. Napping makes up for lack of sleep. So a little nap can give you a boost of energy, but it just doesn't replace getting actual sleep in the nighttime. Naps don't get you through the stages of sleep the same way that you would sleeping longer at night. So if you don't know, we actually go through stages of sleep. These are cycles that are repeated about 5 times when we actually sleep. And it's naps, they don't go through those 5 stages, but nighttime sleep does. So teens and young adults don't need sleep as much as older adults. This is a popular misconception because since younger folks naturally have more energy, we think that they don't need the same amount of sleep as adults. But in the actual case, it's the opposite. Teens and young adults, they actually need more sleep for the sake of growth, as it lets our body produce more hormones and repair tissue damage and also develop muscle mass. So we actually need more sleep than adults. So let's look at how elite athletes sleep. So elite athletes are paired with many factors that can impact their sleep, such as length of the season and off season, number of practices, number of competitions and travel. And because many athletes are still amateur athletes, so that could be you. They still hold commitments to a school or a job, and that's kind of like an addition to their sport. So the reason we're going to be talking about how elite athletes are affected by sleep is it's always good to study elite athletes, like each domain of their craft, and then you can kind of link stuff into your own life. So at the individual level, factors that include their sleep are kind of discomfort, pains from injuries and stuff like that, kind of physical, physiological, sleep disorders. Also, each person has unique requirements and reactions to sleep deprivation, some better than others, such as Kobe, and preferred sleep hours, such as being a morning bird or a night owl. So the perspective on sleep is there's various types of perspectives, of course. Some people kind of take it as like the holy grail and they make sure they get their sleep. Some people view it as kind of a waste of time. They have this kind of grind, hustle mentality that they view sleep as a weakness or a limitation to their success. And a good example of this was Kobe.
My sleep habits were horrendous, to say the least. I mean, I've always had a hard time sleeping. You know, I couldn't figure out how to shut my brain off. So what made the light bulb come on is that I went out there and played a game, and I played like crap. And I was like, why am I playing like crap? Because I've been practicing these same moves over and over and over. But yet, I couldn't execute them properly. I was feeling sluggish, I was feeling lethargic, and I knew it wasn't because of my training, because I had trained obsessively. Maybe the fact that you're sleeping 2 or 3 hours a night, maybe that has something to do with the fact that you're playing like crap.
You know, although athletes nowadays kind of realize how significant the amount of quality in sleep contributes to performance, some athletes still continue to shrug it off as unnecessary or as an obstacle. So, sleep disorders. Even when a chance to get enough sleep is given, some athletes have the sleep disorders that impair their quality of their sleep. And these guys are subject to certain conditions that can make them more susceptible to sleep disorders. One of these is performance anxiety. And we actually talked about performance anxiety in our last episode. I recommend you check it out. It's quite a long one, but it's pretty useful. And performance anxiety leads to more than 60% of athletes having trouble falling asleep the night before a competition. And obviously that's pretty big because it's a competition. And even without this, the lifestyle of an elite athlete might involve frequent travel, unpredictable scheduling, and pain and injury, all of which increase the risk of sleepiness in some people. Effects on performance, injury, and recovery. So it's been discovered that performance will degrade with sleep loss. This is very obvious, but we'll just get into why that happens. And some notable studies that looked at this have found that cyclists become slower with just one night of just around 2 hours of sleep versus around 7 hours of sleep. Basketball players who were given up to 10 hours of sleep for 7 weeks saw an improvement in their shooting accuracy and sprint speed. This is interesting. Tennis players had an increased serving accuracy after just 2 more hours of sleep. That's quite a big one. And also professional baseball players displayed increased alertness and cognition after just increasing their sleep from 6.3 hours to 6.9 hours after 5 nights. So even just a little bit more sleep can just boost that performance. But that doesn't mean that extra sleep is what works. It could be just making up for the sleep debt. And I talked about this in my guide to sleep optimization book, which is down in the description. I'll explain that more later. So although increased total sleep time was linked with a higher perception of recovery after training or competition, many athletes paradoxically seem to be sleeping less when they're working out most intensely. This can be worrying since the loss of sleep can expose us to risk for injury, as people who sleep less than 8 hours are 1.7 times more likely to become injured than people who sleep more than 8 hours. That's quite a big statement. And it's unclear whether the improvements in performance stem from a recovery in baseline sleep deficit or just because having an amount of extra sleep provides some added value. Also unsettled is the correct amount of sleep necessary for a full workout, for a full recovery and optimal performance. This I talked about this in my ebook, but it's quite individualized and requires specific framework. So if you do want to find out your specific needs, then check out the ebook. So how to optimize sleep. Individuals aged 13 to 18 years young should aim for about 8 to 10 hours. However, this myth of how much sleep is required is a myth, because some people actually require only 4 hours, some people require 11 hours. But for younger people, it's generally between 8 to 10. But you could get away with much less or much more, but it just depends on what your body's telling you. So what is most important though is ensuring that your quality of sleep is sufficient. You can do this by just making sure your room is dark and cold and being properly clothed, having a quiet room, or implementing some white noise or sleep music if you need it. Also going to bed and waking up at the same time every day. This is important. Go to sleep and wake up at the same time every day. Doesn't matter if it's a weekend, just do it. Cut out caffeine in the evening. Just read or stretch before going to bed. Avoid naps if you can't sleep well at night. Also create a wind down routine. So basically our biology needs to kind of wind down so we can descend into good sleep at night. So we should all find our own wind down routine. Also, this is this is pretty specific, at least for me. It might be the same case for you, but just not counting sheep or just replaying or envisioning kind of training or games in your head or just things that in your day, just no need to replay that. It puts your brain to work instead of winding it down, which is obviously the opposite thing that we want. In terms of supplementing sleep, so naps, they're quite a double-edged sword. So they can be beneficial as they can increase your alertness, kind of lift your mood, improve your memory, and decrease stress. Obviously, it's useful before a game. However, if you do decide to nap, you should aim for less than 20 minutes so you don't get a sleep hangover, which basically is like the grogginess that we feel after we had like too much sleep, which basically means that we got too close to our next 90-minute sleep stage. Don't nap after 1 p.m. though. If you're sleep deprived or struggling to sleep properly during the night, napping will decrease your level of natural sleepiness. So it's quite essential that you don't nap because you'll make up for it in the nighttime. Sleep optimization framework. It is challenging to optimize sleep for ourselves because everyone's different. Even if you're not an elite athlete, it's simple for sleep to be ignored when there are so many conflicting demands on our time. And because of this, the science has told us that paying attention to our sleep patterns can improve our performance when we're awake. And if you want to find these patterns, we have to analyze our daily habits, such as when we wake up, when we fall asleep, what time we go to bed, and how we're sleeping in our environment. So let's conclude. Here's just some points that we've made. So, if we don't sleep properly, we lose functions in our motor skills, our alertness, cognition, immune strength. Elite athletes, we've seen that they're affected by a lot of factors, and the effects on performance, our injury, recovery, tells us that we become slower with a loss of sleep amount and quality. We become 1.7 times more likely to become injured when we sleep less than 8 hours. And also here's just some tips on maximizing sleep. So if you are more interested in this, do check out the ebook in the description. I found like the most common and also uncommon questions about sleep, and I've structured it in a way where you find out the sleep patterns through the questions, and I tell you the sleep patterns in the end anyways, but it's just I provide you the context and I provide you the framework, so then you can take whatever interests you the most from the book and then you can apply it to your own life, and then you can see if you get an improvement or not. It's completely free. all you have to do is just click the link. So apart from that, thanks for watching. Do make sure to subscribe for more videos like this, and I'll see you in the next one.